Mine's an all cat film.
It's
All cat version.
Cats, but David.
Yeah. It's Daniel in the lion's den, but just cats.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, welcome to Clean Meats. Back again with the crew from last time, but today we are covering film. Specifically, what Bible stories would make good movies, either because they haven't been made before or because they have been made, but they were completely terrible, like the one about Noah in the flood with Russell Crowe. That was horrible. But back here again with Steve, with Rashida, with Abby, and I'm your host, the Claw Man himself, Daniel Rousseau. Excited to get to it. How's everyone doing?
Good. Great.
Good.
Wow.
Can't complain.
Yeah.
I'm for
Doing
it.
well.
Everyone apparently has been like excited about this. And the thing too is that I'm pretty big into film, but everyone on this call is like way more than I am. So by the end, like yesterday, actually, I finalized my choices. Not because I procrastinated, because I was having a hard time. Like I had some ideas and then some last minute inspiration hit. And by inspiration, 50% of that was Abby gave me the idea and I just stole it.
Nope, 95% of it was me.
No. I say half because it was all that it was most of an entirety of one of my choices was your the other one I had for a while, but then
Got it.
Our friend who was giving the sermon gave a message on a particular story, and I'm like, no, it's a better option.
I know what it is now, Dan.
Oh, okay. You weren't on.
I know, but Dad told me what he was going to talk about.
Okay. I mean, Abby
so now I know.
You don't know the take I'm going to have. So that's
no. This will be interesting. Yeah,
so,
I'm interested.
So, fun context. The Golden Globes are tonight. Funny enough.
As of recording, you should say.
As of recording, yes. It's not going to be tonight. If you're watching this like in March, it's not going to be current. But Steve, I know you had said I think it's a good way to start it, that you wanted each of us to talk a bit about why we think either this is, I don't want to say important, might be the wrong word, but like the impact of film and culture. And I know you asked the crew to sort of articulate that. Do you want to start us, like, what were you thinking when you suggested we start that way?
Yeah, film's an interesting thing, right? Because it's relatively new, right? It's like 100, 115 years old kind of thing. So it's a new medium. It's a new medium for entertainment. Right? We use it a lot for entertainment. But I think especially as we're looking at biblical stories, we're looking at what's going on in there, it's interesting to then put them in a different light. I think one of the things that I think most of us have probably seen The Chosen. I think they do things really well to make it more human, right? Like one of the things I've always said about a lot of stories in the Bible is that, right, if you're reading through First Samuel and you're just reading about David, things seem like they're happening immediately. And you don't realize that things are actually happening over a long period of time. And so with film, I think you can give a little bit of that context, but I think you can also make it a little bit more personal because now you actually have someone acting out. And that's just from like a biblical perspective. But I think in general, and I kind of realized this during COVID, because I was watching a couple things. And what I've realized is I think one of the really interesting things about film is that, especially now in our society, and not even just like Western society too, because I was actually watching a Japanese show when this occurred to me. So this is not just something that's pure Western culture, but what the medium of film also allows us to do is talk about the topics that are of really importance to a lot of us. And if it's major issues, good or bad, right? We see a lot of things that we see in film today and we say, oh, well, that's not good. And so we identify it. But I think what that also shows is that this is a major issue in society today. And if us in the church can't address this issue in any good way, right? If it's in terms of, like, for instance, if we're talking, right, and this is like homosexuality is a good example of this, right? Like that's portrayed quite frequently in film. And if we have a certain way if we just completely dismiss it, what it ends up doing is we don't really have a good grasp and we can't really understand what's going on. And that's just one idea, but we could see this in film and it's there and it's everywhere, right? Like people would say that, and these kinds of issues are there. And so what it shows is that these are issues that we should be able to address in coherent ways and in godly ways too. And so I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about film as an art form. And I just think it's a fascinating thing when you look at lighting and directing and all the cool, like, technical elements of the actual art form are just fascinating to me.
I'm half expecting Abby to have like a cinematographer picked for each one too.
I don't. What Japanese film were you watching?
I was not watching a film. I was watching a show. I was watching Demon Slayer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Rashida or Abby, did you have any thoughts on those fronts in terms of like reflecting what Steve mentioned via email?
Yeah, trying to piggyback on that. I love film because I greatly respect it. I think it's one of the most innovative mediums of mankind. I mean, historically, if we look at human expression, it was usually diluted down to one singular form. You had spoken word, written word, song, art, dance, and what have you. And cinema is so unique because it just kind of amalgamates all of those mediums into one to create this embodied experience. But I think the biggest reason why I love film is because I think that it is man's feeble yet earnest attempt to kind of visualize, or how can I put this? Reveal the interiority of mankind the way that God has always seen it. So, for example, I'm one of those weird people that actually like public transportation because I think that we as humans are just interesting and fascinating creatures. So, but what never ceases to astound me is that every stranger that I look upon, every person that I see has this inner vivid world that I will never know anything about. And yet God knows each and every heart intimately. So I think that film is such a beautiful way to kind of bring those hidden stories in the soul to light to those who are actually brave enough to tell those stories. And then why I believe that biblical storytelling in film is so paramount is because I'm going to go to Shakespeare for a second. My favorite part of Hamlet is when Hamlet is talking to or giving advice to the players, basically throwing shade at bad acting. And then he says that theater is akin to putting a mirror up to human nature to show virtue her feature and scorn her image and to expose the form and the pressure of the age. And that always makes me think about James, like that scripture in James where it says that a man who is a forgetful hearer of the word is like a man looking at his natural face in the mirror. He walks away, he forgets who he is. But a man who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, this man will be blessed in what he does. So I think if we take that human mirror that Shakespeare and James allude to, and then we partner or marry it with the perfect law of liberty, which is the only antidote to human fallibility through Christ, we bring those together. I think it's a potent vehicle of truth to kind of help permeate the mind and soften the stoniest heart. So I think I love that you mentioned The Chosen. I think Angel Studios, they're doing an incredible job. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Before I go to Abby, I will say what it seems like there's a direct relationship between people who are intelligent and the fact that they like Shakespeare. So the fact that you went there, that's like confirming, right? I don't know what it says about me though, because I hate Shakespeare.
I also did too. As an English major,
so many people that I respect so much. Like it seems like it's a rite of passage creatively for a lot of people, and I just have never understood it. I have just and whenever I've like read it, it's just I think the language difference is so great that I have a hard time following the story. I have the same problem with any format like musicals or operas that are completely sung. The ones that are the ones that are mixed, I can do, like I can follow the storyline well, but the ones that I'm just like I'm throwing shade at myself. I'm just making
and Steve.
I'm training myself right now.
We're like the same person.
Yeah, but Abby.
And I love opera too, so that breaks my heart again. You're just pulverizing it, but thank you. I'll recover.
Well, Rashida and I are on one side of the screen on my view. So on the intelligent side of the screen, I also like Shakespeare and I love poetry. I read and I write a lot of poetry. I'm not saying I'm a good poet writer. I just do it when I want to get thoughts out. But I really do love poetry. It really speaks to me. Probably why I like music so much. Music is very poetic. So yes, film. Wow, Rashida, I don't want to follow up what you said, because I have a less deep answer.
Yeah.
I love storytelling. When I was young, I read a lot of books. I was an early reader and I loved to read. And then I went to college and I stopped reading for fun. And so I'm trying to force myself to read for fun again. I have plenty of books I need to get through. It's very slow, but I don't know, like a couple years ago, I got into watching movies more seriously and TV shows more seriously as like a let's really analyze it and think about the different elements that go into making shows and movies and the writing and the character development and all that stuff. And yeah, it's a really palatable thing for most people. You know, you get the ability to watch something, and because there's like so much media now, I mean, shows and movies don't have to be really complicated, and a lot of people can absorb a story that way, and that's great because yeah, it makes it something that a lot of people have the ability to relate to on some level. I think the thing I like the most about stories, probably from like a media perspective, but also from a biblical perspective, is I like the human, the exploration of the human condition in all of that. I know some people biblically they really attach themselves to dates and times and the history of it all. I like that of scripture. I just have never really connected with it as much as I have about, I think, what you could glean from what you're supposed to learn from the stories of the lives of the people that are recorded in scripture. So when I get to see that in film and TV shows like The Chosen, yeah, it helps bring a realness and a relatableness to the situation that those biblical characters that we read about find themselves in. Maybe puts things, yeah, in a way that's more you can absorb it more on a personal level. And that's always my favorite thing about, I think, any form of storytelling. And I think when you get to be somebody who gets to act and tell another story, that's also very fun because you get to step into a role, and to be good at acting, I think you need to be somebody who's really deeply empathetic and be able to kind of step outside yourself and step into another headspace, and that can be really fun and too. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
I like it. I don't have that much more to add to what you all said, but I don't remember what I was watching. It was probably a documentary of some kind where it was mentioning how visual media and movies in particular have had maybe a greater influence on our culture, at least in the States, than anything else. And I would tend to agree with that. Like for better or for worse, and I would say largely for worse. But I think it shows the power of the medium, and also the idea that, hey, if you went at trying to portray stories from scripture, which is like chock full of so many fantastic stories that could be made into film, and this is sort of criminally underutilized, that it could be a very powerful way to communicate all the things that you all were talking about the human condition, about making taking certain elements that are in scripture and visualizing in a way that makes it real, or that gives it a power that maybe, yeah, you could get it from reading it, but it might also be easier to skip over that while reading it. So it's just to illustrate the power of the medium. And I just also think it's just going to be a fun exercise. And I hope you're going to get to know a little bit about what each of us appreciates about movies and like our favorite actors and everything. And I'm sure we're going to give each other all sorts of grief for our choices as well. So I feel like, and again, I'm not trying to be magnanimous because people be like, oh yeah, of course, when there's nothing at stake and there's no drafting or sniping, he'll let the ladies go first. But I figured, why not? Let's have the ladies go first. Let's have Rashida and then Abby and then Steve. I'll have you go, and then I'll close it out myself. So first, we're going to do the core of it. If I didn't articulate this before, is we're each picking two biblical stories that we think should be made into film. One is one that has not been done before, which is going to be the first one we're going to start with. The second one's going to be one we want to redo. And beyond that, we're sort of giving each person liberty in terms of how in-depth they want to go about this. Clearly, Abby's cat is interested in getting everyone's opinion.
She'll probably join.
Yeah, probably.
Is V gonna star in one of your ones?
Yeah, mine's an all cat film.
It's
all cat version.
Cats, but David.
Yeah. It's Daniel in the Lion's Den, but just cats.
Yeah.
But okay, so we're gonna first start with Rashida. So Rashida, what story did you pick?
All right, so I actually picked the story of Elijah because I did not find it at all.
Nice,
and I'm like, what? Are you serious? It was actually kind of surprising. I thought maybe there was like a hidden 1980s made-for-TV movie somewhere, but no, nothing. And I'm like, okay, that's crazy, especially with the God Showdown on Mount Carmel. But all right, let's do this. So for my director, I chose Denis Villeneuve, the guy who does all the Dune movies. Yeah, I think he can handle.
Arrival.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
So
Classic.
I'm like, okay, that'll work. Now, for
did Abby get sniped?
I did.
Oh,
I did.
I thought about him too, but I
probably
went
not
with
the same story though, right?
Okay, right. But I'm glad.
Okay.
Great minds. So for the cast, I chose for Elijah my favorite, Oscar Isaac.
Ooh, I also have him in one of my films.
Okay.
I do, yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, for Elisha, I actually chose Denzel's son. I chose John David Washington. And for Ahab, the chameleon himself, Aragorn himself, Viggo Mortensen.
Oh, Viggo. That's a good one. That's an interesting one.
I miss him. So I'm like, let's bring him back. Now, for Jezebel, this was hard. I had like 5 options, but I chose Indira Varma. I think she's striking and she can strike. So, and I also think she's criminally underused. She was in she mostly does like HBO stuff. Like, so she was in Game of Thrones, Rome.
What character in Game of Thrones?
Oh gosh, I can't remember right now. But she was.
Oh yeah, she was
Pedro Pascal's.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But she's amazing. She does a lot of stage stuff. So, so I'm biased. But no, she's fantastic and criminally underused. As for the widow whose son is resurrected, this is also another. She's mostly unknown. She's kind of growing in popularity now, but I think she's great. And so she's an Iranian French actress. Her name is Golshifteh Farahani. Very poignant and amazing. And again, criminally underused. As for the High Priest of Baal, I picked Mads Mikkelsen.
Because Mads, okay.
Yes, I love him, and he can be terrifying. So yes. And then I also chose film score. So I want Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor because I love them. They do a lot of Fincher films. Yeah, I think they're amazing.
I didn't think of score.
I actually didn't either.
Yeah, I did my boys. So like, yeah, I got to get Ross and Reznor.
Nice.
But so that's all of the story of Elijah. Now, okay, this one's a bit bare bones for my redemption one. In 1985, I actually thought this was a made-for-TV film when I saw it because it's so bad. So it's King David with Richard Gere. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
I've seen this one. Yep.
You've seen this one. And yeah, and even Rotten Tomatoes agrees with me. It got 8%.
Oof.
And yeah, 8. So I only picked the director, David, and Saul. Those were the only 3 that I cast because I couldn't figure it out. So it was just too many options. So for my director, Spielberg's just felt so on the nose. So I'm like, nope, I'm gonna get innovative with this. So I'm actually picking a very strange choice, but I believe in him. And it's Frank Darabont. He was the director of Shawshank Redemption.
Ooh,
he basically did all of Stephen King's novellas. So he's the guy. He does a lot of TV stuff nowadays. I think he was working on Stranger Things recently for their final season. I think he did a lot with The Walking Dead. But again, Shawshank is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'm like, yeah, let's get him back into the workforce. Let's bring him back.
Nice.
As for David, this took hours for me to choose, but I'm actually going to go with Aaron Pierre on this one. I've seen a lot of his stage work and I think he's dynamic and I think he can do it and he's a good age. And I think that he can do more. He was just in Rebel Ridge and I think he can do more than outwit Don Johnson for 2 hours and play a CGI lion. So like, you can do this. As for Saul, I picked Liev Schreiber. And I'm not negotiating him. He's perfect. I need him.
I should have thought about Liev Schreiber because I do really like him. I did not put him on. I should have put him on.
Voice of Hard Knocks.
That's right. He does do the voice of Hard Knocks.
So
one football plug for the evening.
okay. So that's all I chose. I just needed those three things. But again, Saul, Liev Schreiber is non-negotiable for me. And another thing, I actually chose screenwriter. I chose Frank Darabont to do the screenwriting as well because he's great with source material. So I'm like, and it's also good for the budget. I can save money.
Nice.
So let's get him on too. So yeah, those are my two.
So the choice of David was that primarily motivated by how bad the original was? Like, we just need to fix this? Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
like,
debated that. I took a different angle with mine in terms of I didn't find one that was necessarily bad. I just had two ideas and one happened to also be a reboot, so it worked.
Nice.
But I hope someone redoes Noah's Ark after that horrendous first take. But
yes,
$20 I can't get back. I went to go see it in IMAX as a broke college student, and I was debating: do I walk out, or do I just stay and just get my $20 worth? It was a horrible decision.
Did anyone, just a little bit of a spoiler, I guess? Did anyone choose Noah?
No, I did not.
No, okay. So we could address it a bit. When I went at the time with a girl I was dating at the time, and we went and saw it, and like, people who know me also know that I will stay in something if it makes me upset, because like I'd rather feel something even if it's a negative emotion than just be bored by it. So I was there and I hated it. Like the rock people thing, the Nephilim, I guess, was that their take on that was that there were literal spirit beings enshrined in rock. It was the dumbest thing. But walking out, like everyone else in the theater was complaining about it. Like, what was that? It was one of the weirdest cinema experiences in my life, period. So,
and that was Darren Aronofsky, who's like a pretty decent director too. So it was kind of disappointing.
It also,
I mean, I actually haven't seen it, but like usually with a big director, like, okay, well maybe this will be like good, and it was weird.
It also shows you though, and we recognize, like, we're taking license here because who knows if the people we're choosing would actually be respectful of the source material. Like, clearly Aronofsky was not respectful of the source material. If you're taking a Hollywood atheistic approach to a story that you just see as some, religious fable, you're not going to respect it. So the license we're taking is that we would choose these people if there was like an honorable approach to depicting these things. So yeah. Abby, what were your two?
Well, have you all ever seen the movie Evan Almighty?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great version of the Noah story. What are you talking about?
Okay.
That's too funny.
That's not bad.
There doesn't need to be a remake. That movie exists.
Yeah. Just like how I didn't pick anything related to Moses, because I'm like, 10 Commandments nailed it. Right. Outside of like all of the problems it had with it.
Right.
But like it did a good job.
So that's sort of that's the test case for it too, because what is subtly I don't say dangerous, a little hyperbolic, but it's certainly possible, is you could do something that's coming from a respectful angle and good. Like, everyone who knows Steve knows he loves the 10 Commandments movie with Charlton Heston.
Yes.
And it's a good movie. We watch it every year on the spring holidays.
Yes.
But there's also so much potential for like giving people the wrong impression by illustrating parts of it. Like, they just conflating Korah's rebellion and the golden calf and like 3 different events to end the movie. Even I've always maintained that it sounds from scripture. Like, Moses always knew he was Hebrew. That I think the license where Cecil B. DeMille got it was he might have read like other historic books from the Jewish community that like articulated that was their belief. But I think scripture indicates the opposite. But
I also think it was just a way to introduce additional conflict as well.
You don't need that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just a long way to say that I was half expecting Steve to just choose 10 Commandments again with all the same people starring in all the same roles. just so he could talk about that movie. But,
no, I did not do that. But okay. Charlton Heston will come up in my conversation.
Of course.
Ooh, okay.
And Yul Brynner.
Okay.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
And so also to highlight, because I think it'll apply later, Rashida chose all current actors and directors and everything like that. So Abby, what's your take?
My take is actually pretty simple. In thinking about it, I was like, I only really have one answer, and it's just because it's a story I really like. I've grown to like him more as I have read through scripture over and over. And also, I so it's the story of Daniel, but I have never seen like a good adaptation of Daniel.
I
And
also
I
picked
know that there's
Daniel.
ones out there, but I've never seen like a solid one. And I also think that in the entire book of Daniel, there's so much that happens. There's so many like different things that is talked about that I think it would make a great like mini series or like a couple
Hmm.
season show, because there's a lot of different points in Daniel's life that we like meet up with him and he's doing something with a king. And I picked Denis Villeneuve for my director because I love, there's so many like really kind of fantastical elements of Daniel's story. He interprets dreams a lot. There's a lot of weird things that happen that he's involved in. I mean, even his friends, I would love to see like a side story with his friends that he serves with, their experience with King Nebuchadnezzar. And I think it would make, yeah, even like more than a movie. I think it would make like a great show to cover like a lot of his life that you get to read biblically. And I just think Denis Villeneuve does sci-fi so well. I
Hmm.
really really like his approach to sci-fi. It's something he said in an interview that I like and I've thought about as I've watched a lot of media, is that he doesn't really love a lot of dialogue. He prefers that his films are not dialogue heavy and that they're kind of simple in terms of what the characters are actually saying. And I like that. I think that it forces you as maybe a writer to be really intentional about everything that the characters say. And I think that that would translate really well to I think a biblical story that's got probably a lot of like really visual, interesting elements to it.
Hmm.
I didn't think about cast at all, probably because I really don't
Really?
like when I don't really like when, you know, I guess especially with like biblical stuff,
Hmm.
when people who are not maybe from that area or that region are cast in roles that, you know, I don't know. I think it takes you out of the story a little bit. So I don't really know a lot of actors from that, like big, well-known actors from that region. And I would love to see whenever there's like new movies coming out. I'm always really excited to see people I've never seen before or people that have experience in other like genres and then they come over to film. So I would love to see just a bunch of new actors who maybe have who are from like the regions where Daniel would have been originally and then got their time in the spotlight. So that's my thought on that. I don't really have any. The
That's a
other thing I
really good
don't
point.
like, yeah, well, the other thing I don't like about a lot of biblical stories that I see so often, and I was thinking about this because of the sermon yesterday. I think a lot of biblical stories depict like most people from what like Old Testament periods of time as really poor, like especially the people in scripture. And I'm always like, a lot of people were described as, I mean, some of the characters are poor or that is part of their life that's talked about, but a lot of people in scripture are relatively wealthy, and like Abraham's really wealthy. I just got through reading some of his story in Genesis, so I don't know, I just think it's always really strange that people are depicted as relatively poor when there's a lot of people who are very wealthy, and I would love to see like a better visual picture of that than I think we get sometimes in scripture, where it's just like they're in the desert a lot and it's like, okay, there's more to it than that though. So yeah,
I
that's my
also,
thought. I don't know.
you made a
I just
couple
want
really
to see Daniel.
interesting points on that. The first is the idea of your answer for the cast question to be relatively unknown people from the area. I think is a valid, like, there are some shows that are great because the cast is largely unknown. Like, maybe even sometimes they become known later, like, even something like Band of Brothers. A big
Hmm.
part of that is you could lose yourself in the story because there isn't someone super famous taking up the screen and just being so obvious that it's that. Who's the guy who
You think about David Schwimmer?
no. Oh, they're from
Okay.
Friends. Yeah, that's a
Yeah, because he's
no.
in the first like
Ross?
episode and then he
Ross?
Yeah,
disappears. Yeah.
I'm digressing, and I clearly don't have the recall that you guys do with some of these guys. But no, is it Austin Butler? The he's
Mm,
so
Oh, he
Elvis?
was like in
they were in
the
everything.
he was in the new movies or the new series that Spielberg and Hanks did with
Mhm.
the pilots during World War II, or as I like to refer to that show, Air Buds.
Yeah.
And he was distracting because he was so famous. So I like that as a rule. I also think I figured some license would be taken with nation of origin for this, as Hollywood has sort of always
Of course.
done.
Yeah.
And
I will
it's
talk
not,
about that when it gets to me.
it's not going to be necessarily in my, well, it will affect my choices, but in some of my, maybe at the end, if we go other stories we were considering, there's one that I really wanted to do, just specifically because I wanted to see this one person play this one particular character. But okay, what was your other one? Also, before the other
No,
one,
it's
that
what?
was it. That was the
Yeah, it's both.
Okay.
I said, like I've never seen, I know there are versions of Daniel out there. I've never seen one that, and like in terms of like a biblical story that maybe has never been adapted or something, I don't know. I don't have a thought on that. I'm like, pretty much there's the big one. Like I don't know. I like some of the little stories, but I don't know. Sometimes there's not enough content to be like, oh, this would make a good movie or this would make a good show. Like I like the little stories of these kind of people you maybe read about for one chapter or, you know, a few chapters. But I yeah, the more I know David is like the guy that everybody thinks about in terms of Old Testament stories, but Daniel, for me, I don't know. I become more and more interested in his story. I think every time I read through it, I love the things. I'm very fascinated by the things that Daniel went through, and I'm very fascinated by the dream interpreters. We don't hear about many of them in scripture, and I'm always really interested in that. So
I also think a visual depiction of Babylon would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean the seven wonders, right? Like one of the seven wonders of like the ancient world was it like the falling towers, whatever they call them, the gardens of Babylon,
Hanging
like,
Gardens.
yeah.
Right?
So
Yeah.
like that would be
Falling towers.
fantastic. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
But I've watched a few movies where that area was depicted, and my understanding from history is that it was like a really imposing and like amazing city to behold. So having someone do a real good job showing it and then having a story take place in it where these people are in captivity, I think that'd be an interesting concept. Okay, so
the Holman Illustrated Dictionary has a really nice rendering of it. That's quite interesting. Yeah, I think it's like the fourth edition, the one I own. So yeah, so it's really quite astounding.
Okay.
Cool.
So definitely take a gander at that.
As we mentioned in the beginning, like to quote The Big Lebowski, this, or to paraphrase it, this is just like Vietnam. There are no rules. We all took a different we all took a different take on this.
Yes.
So Steve, what's your what are your two?
All right, so I got really excited when we were doing this one, and I went hard. I went hard on this. I was like,
He's
I'm
got
gonna
a whiteboard in the
dig into it.
background.
I do. I have a whiteboard right
Yes,
here. I can address everything. And so yeah, so to address Abby's point about like nation of origin, all this kind of stuff, I thought about the same thing. I was like, man, like because really what I did is I tried to pick the key players of the story, and I was like, all right, these guys are the most important. And so I want names because it's a movie, right? I feel like for series, it would make sense because you're following them for a long time. So like I didn't pick this because we did movies, not series. I think a series on the judges would be very interesting. Right? Where you can have just like single episodes and like, right, you could just do that. Almost like an anthology series, but it's actually just following stories. I think that'd be super cool. But I didn't do that. I also think the same thing about 𝐴𝐜𝐴. I think that'd be awesome. I would love to see a series
I would love that.
on
I
𝐴𝐜𝐴.
love
Yeah.
the book of 𝐴𝐜𝐴.
Same.
Yeah.
So cool. And I think like unknown actors for that would be fantastic because you can also see them develop and those arcs are very interesting. So, but I did kind of just pick people here. It was funny because I was going through, I unintentionally ended up picking a lot of guys who had like ethnic Jewish parents. So even though they're like typically like you just consider them white, but again, like Semitic people can really be different. I mean, you go back and look at like Israel, like Gal Gadot as an Israeli actress, like she could be from France for all we know. But you know, there's things that, and even like in Iran, which would be kind of Iraq would be like modern day Babylon. Like there was a lot of mixing going on there. So I just kind of threw it all to the wind. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna throw these people in here.
All that
who knows?
Say, I disregarded it completely.
Well, because I was like, I don't. Because part of me was like, it's gonna be really hard to try to find like actors that I knew well to put in these roles. And so I was like, you know what? And who knows what they would have looked like 4,000 years ago? 2,000 years ago, right? And so
Yeah.
I kind of just was like, you know what? I don't really know what these people would look like. Maybe just tell them to get a tan. I don't know.
He wants the big name
Right.
actors. He wants to draw on a crowd.
Yeah, right. It's just like, and so I will go through and you'll
Brad
see
Pitt with tan.
Yeah.
No, I've seen Troy. That's already been
You've
made.
seen Troy. Yeah. So and we were talking about this right before we started recording, but what I also try to do is pick people who had like either a look or a demeanor about them that was like, all right, this fits. And I tried to even dig into, well, how old would these people be, and try to match it up to the ages of them. And so the first story that I chose, completely original. I've never seen a movie on this. And I would this would either be like a 3.5 hour movie or a part 1 and part 2. And this is the building of the Second Temple.
Oh, okay.
Because I was in Ezra and Nehemiah, and I was like, this would be so cool, the political elements of it, everything that was going on at the time. And then I was like, but wait, Joshua and Zerubbabel, how different in times were there? And they were like 70 years apart. And I'm like, but they're like interconnected because you had the prophecies of Haggai and Zechariah, which were concurrent with Joshua and Zerubbabel. And so you wanted to kind of see this go, and then it fell apart, right? It fell apart, and then Ezra and Nehemiah have to come back. So I was kind of thinking about this would be either one long movie or 2 movies.
Okay.
So I have a little bit of license here.
Is Cecil B. DeMille going to direct it?
No, I picked people who were alive.
Okay.
I have a couple of people that I will mention when I get to the character of dead actors who I'm like, this would be perfect. But the director, and I'm wearing this in honor of him, my Quint's shark thing. I did pick Steven Spielberg to do that. So I was because he does these kinds of movies, right? Like he's done Schindler's List. He's done a lot of these
potential
things.
Jaws references tonight, by the way.
Yes, one of 2 potential Jaws references, I guess. So yeah, and it's just like Steven Spielberg knows how to do a movie, right? Like he's just like one. I think he is probably the best director of the last 50 years, right? Like the things he knows how to create suspense. And for movies like Jurassic Park and Jaws and all those kinds of things, but he can do the epic historical features like Schindler's List and even more recent stuff. I mean, he just did West Side Story a couple of years ago, right? Like he's done these kinds of things, and he has a degree of.
Don't shake your head. That's a really good version of West Side Story. I will defend that. I will defend that movie. It's really good.
Like that's what I've heard. I've heard this mix.
The main character is not even Italian. It's like Dusseldorf or guy, the Ansel. I don't know how to say that guy's name.
Oh, was that the guy from Baby Driver?
I don't think that's an important part of his character. Okay, we don't have to talk about this. This is derailing the conversation.
But this
New
is
York
right.
Italian.
Yeah. But anyway, Steven Spielberg 100% should be doing this one. Also, since he's Jewish, right? I think this would be an interesting thing for him to connect to. I decided to throw in a writer here because Steven Spielberg usually doesn't do screenplays, and I was like, I need to throw him in here because I didn't pick him for a film, but he usually writes all of the movies he does, and I don't really know if he fits, but he needs to be talked about, and that is everybody's favorite director, Christopher Nolan. He does all of his own screenplays, and I was like, you can co-direct maybe, and you'd have a lot of fun. I think that'd be,
you know what that means, though. Your score has to be by Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer with the Second Temple. Right? It's perfect. It's perfect. So those are the 2 guys I have there. Nolan was more of just like a throw in there. Like I don't know screenwriters, so just throw him in there. My other one, the director also writes all of his stuff, so that'll come later. Actors. I think a lot of what I picked was probably recency bias for myself, if I'm being completely honest here.
Okay.
For part 1, which would include Joshua, Zerubbabel, Haggai, and Zechariah. Those are the only 4 that I picked. Well, I'll start with the people who I thought would be perfect, but they're dead. And I think you could probably interchange them, but I had Gregory Peck as Joshua, as the high priest, and Charlton Heston as Zerubbabel.
He sounds like a Zerubbabel. Is that him saying his own name? Okay.
It would just be too perfect.
Yeah.
And those two guys, if this movie was from like the late
Zerubbabel.
50s, it would be Cecil B. DeMille directing, and it would be those two guys as there. And I actually looked up if they were ever in a movie together, and they were in a Western together. Charlton Heston was the villain. But anyway, I will move on. But who I ended up picking for Joshua, and this is 100% recency bias, Michael Shannon.
Okay.
Who reason why it's recency bias is I just watched Death by Lightning, which is about the assassination of James Garfield. Michael Shannon plays James Garfield, U.S. president back in the 1880s, and he was great. I really liked that kind of stoic demeanor and like but powerful. So I feel like he could have done. I put him at Joshua because I looked it up, and I guess right now the idea is that Zerubbabel probably was actually like in his 30s when he went there. Like, so he's probably a younger guy. And so I was thinking high priest, he might have been a little bit older. They probably want someone with experience. So I was like, okay, Michael Shannon kind of fits that bill. He's I think he's in his 50s, I think. And he grows a beard. He looks dyed gray, looks a bit older. He's fine. Right?
He's planned the makeup for this.
I have. I thought so much about this. Zerubbabel. This was also a little bit of recency biases. I just watched the movie with him in it. Miles Teller.
Okay.
And this one was
What
hard.
movie did you watch with Miles in it?
I want Joshua to say to him, "Not my tempo."
No, just get JK. You should have just got JK Simmons to play Joshua.
Are you rushing?
You're rushing it.
Are you driving?
No, I watched The Gorge sci-fi thing.
Okay.
Him and
You
it's Miles
watched
Teller.
The Gorge?
Yeah.
We can talk about that later.
Abby's not a fan.
It was fine. But yeah. And so I mean I like Miles Teller. He's done a couple of really good things. So I was like, I throw him in there. But I had a hard one with this one. I really didn't know who I wanted to be this. Because again, it goes back to all this stuff. I'm like, I want someone to fit the profile. I just couldn't find someone who really fit the profile. And so I was like, just throw him in Miles Teller. Haggai. So I looked it up. They were saying that Haggai was probably older, like in his 60s or 70s. And so I picked Academy Award winning Gary Oldman.
Okay.
I like Gary.
Yeah, I was thinking like he just kind of fits. He's got a good speaking presence about him. I think he's played Winston Churchill, which is where he won his Academy Award, and then he's done other things. Obviously, like Commissioner Gordon. So, and it makes sense because Christopher Nolan's doing the thing. So just throwing guys who have been with him before. And then Zachariah, they said he was probably younger than Haggai, so probably 30s or 40s. And I, again, had a hard time with this one, but I was like, he's a guy who really gets into like the method acting. And so I was like, you know what? Another Christopher Nolan guy, just throw on Christian Bale. Have him be Zachariah. We'll see what happens. He played Moses, which also was not very good, but we'll see how it goes. I struggled with these, but it was the best I could do.
It's a redemption story for Christian Bale.
Yeah, it's a redemption story. Get back to something better.
Bible movie.
Yeah. So part 2 was I only did Ezra and Nehemiah. I didn't have any other people in there. Again, like Ezra being high priest, probably somebody older. Nehemiah probably being a little bit younger. So I'll go Nehemiah first because we already mentioned Oscar Isaac. So I was like, let's throw Oscar Isaacs in there. And again, recency bias because I did watch Frankenstein and I really like Frankenstein. And I heard, Abby, that you didn't like it. So we'll have to talk about that later.
Really?
Yeah, see, I liked it.
Guys, it's not good. Guys, it's not good.
You're breaking my heart tonight.
I know.
I thought it was
Bad.
okay.
I thought it was fantastic. And I love the change to the ending, too. Oh, wow. Okay.
I thought it was great. We're going to talk about that again later. Yeah, we're going to talk about this again later. But Oscar Isaacs, I was like, he fits. And I also didn't realize he was from Guatemala, so I was like, all right, whatever, that's cool. But I thought he was from like Israel or something, and I was just like, oh, he's from Guatemala. Oh, okay. His last name's Isaacs, but again, it's not. It's a Spanish last name.
It's Hernandez. Yes.
So I was like, okay, whatever. And then for Ezra, this is a pull, and I like this one because I think it works. But he's only known for like 2 things. But I like this: Ezra, Mandy Patinkin.
Oh, okay.
I would love that.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's a good actor. Everyone just knows him as Inigo Montoya, but he was in Homeland. He did a good job in Homeland.
Yes, I loved Homeland.
I loved him in the first couple of seasons of Criminal Minds. He's a
Okay,
great.
He was in
yeah.
Criminal Minds? I didn't know
He
that.
was.
He
Yep.
is
Okay.
like the main
Just,
character.
throwing
Yeah.
him into movies he hasn't been in. Like, he was great in Free Willy.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. But yeah, it was interesting because I really tried to come up with a story that had never been done. And I think this like the epic political issues of that time, and I thought would be really interesting to dive into from that perspective and kind of show the issues going on and really in both times, and then being able to like have like Haggai, talk like go through the prophecy in Haggai 1, which is really impactful and all that. And I think what would be really cool, and this is what I like, that if this was like a 3.5 hour movie, you can also show people to kind of make it relevant for the evangelical audience is make sure is to go to Luke and show that Zerubbabel is in the lineage of Christ.
Okay.
And so I think kind of showing like the connection to modern times and for what people would care about Second Temple. I just thought it was an interesting thing. I thought it was a really interesting kind of big topic that I thought would be interesting to hit on. So
what's your redo then?
I also did Daniel. I picked Daniel too.
Okay.
So interestingly enough,
that's our
similar time
duplicate,
frame.
right? That's our first different take on the
Yes.
same thing. That's
Yes.
going to be our only one because my two haven't been talked about. So
Yeah. So this we're going back to the Frankenstein well here because I decided I want Guillermo del Toro.
Yes.
I want Guillermo del Toro to direct
Yes.
and write this because I also
Fantastic.
really like
I can
Pan's
see that.
Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And I mean,
100%.
I'm going to throw out Pacific Rim, but that's just me. But again,
Pacific Rim.
Shape of Water, he did a good job.
Oh, Shape of Water.
I wanted to
Have you
choose
seen
him, but
his
he's so good with
Pinocchio?
monsters. So I'm like, I have no creatures
Well,
that he can play with. So I'll just.
but I kind of did because we do have that time where Nebuchadnezzar ends up just kind of semi-termined, right? He becomes as a beast. I'm
Right.
like, I was like,
Yes.
Guillermo, go have fun with it. Right,
Yeah.
like make it as you will, and he would be great with the visuals of Babylon as well. I think he's got a really great, and that's why I mean I liked it in Frankenstein what he did there. But like Pan's Labyrinth is a very similar kind of thing, and he's a good storyteller too, right? And he does tend to hit on a lot of the sci-fi stuff. But I was like, he could do something different, and I think he's even said previously he kind of wants to start moving away from that. Like I think 2 or 3 years ago he did Pinocchio.
Yeah.
He did a take on Pinocchio.
Fantastic,
His
by the way.
claymation version of Pinocchio is great. If you
Yes.
haven't seen it, it's
I have not. So
Beautifully
I'm
done.
trying to. There was one other movie that he did that I also liked, but I'm blanking on what it was. But if you guys remember, because I knew it was Shape of Water, Pan's Labyrinth, Pacific Rim, then Frankenstein. And I forgot. He's done other stuff.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do was like, I think I really wanted to focus the story on Daniel's relationship with Nebuchadnezzar. And have that be the majority of the story. Maybe if you kind of want to wrap up Daniel's life at the end, you have like maybe like 30-40 minutes of like the end or whatever, which would be Ben Kingsley for me. Old Daniel could be Ben Kingsley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I just found out he's half Kenyan and half Indian. Did not know that, which makes sense why he got picked for Gandhi, and also nailed it, of course.
Did you know that people were actually fainting when they saw him in costume? Like actual Indian civilians were fainting because he looked exactly like Gandhi, that they thought he was like some apparition of sorts. So yeah,
That's crazy. He
Interesting.
did a great job. He looks exactly like him.
yes, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I think Ben Kingsley would fit well in that mold. And so then really I just picked Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel because my thought would be that I wouldn't even want to have like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego there unless you're doing it from Nebuchadnezzar's perspective, right? Because I think having that dynamic, I think looking at that dynamic, kind of what Abby was talking about earlier when she was talking about like the human element, is kind of see that because Nebuchadnezzar is a very interesting figure.
He is on his own. He could have his own story.
Yeah. And so I thought that'd be really interesting to have Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar kind of really just focus on that. So because Nebuchadnezzar is, the king of kings, as it says in Daniel 2, with the head of gold, you can only have the actor of actors play him, and that is Daniel Day-Lewis.
That's a pretty good. Okay, that's a good choice.
That is a good choice.
That's a good choice for Nebuchadnezzar.
He's out of retirement now too.
Yeah,
so
and he's out of
he's
retirement.
out of retirement.
So you can do that. So
Yeah, after a
four,
fact hurts.
four-time Academy Award winner. So it has to be. Even though my funny one was Yul Brynner as Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, I mean that also
Yeah.
that, but
And then the joke title of it would be The King and I Too.
That's good. That is good.
Yeah.
I'm now upset you didn't do that.
Yeah, well, I
King and
wrote
I
it down. I
too.
literally have joke The King and I, and I was like, because that would be right. It would be Nebuchadnezzar as
Getting to
king,
know you.
and of course because Yul
All
Brynner
about
was
you.
in The King and
Oh
I,
my
so
God.
yeah.
And to my shame, I have actually not seen that movie.
I also
I know
haven't
I
seen
should.
I'm
I
done.
know
I'm
I
leaving.
it. Yeah,
Wow.
but yeah. So and then young Daniel, and I actually like this. I like this pick. I will see what you guys think about this.
Okay.
Andrew Garfield.
No, I
Huh.
disagree.
See,
I love Andrew, but not for this.
See, I think it would work because he's done the religious stuff before. I think he fits in that because he was in Silence. He played a Jesuit
Right,
priest
yeah.
in Silence.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then
yes.
even him
Mm.
playing Desmond Doss in Hacksaw Ridge, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of element. And so I was like, I think it makes sense. He probably is he's a little older because Daniel probably would have been pretty young when he came in. So and granted, he has a baby face, but he is like 40. But I was like, I think this works for me.
Yeah.
I like this. It seems like
Where
you guys
did
don't
all
like
the
it.
light come from? Okay.
Somebody likes my idea of Andrew Garfield.
Abby's breaking whatever like podcast fourth wall there is. Why is it so bright in here?
Okay, but would you have him do an American accent or an English one?
Whatever Daniel Day-Lewis is doing. Match it.
Now, see, this is the problem that you made this joke now because all I'm picturing is like Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel dancing around to Shall We Dance. That's like the image I have in my head.
But I would actually, and my thought was maybe you could I thought you might end the story with like the writing on the wall segment as like Babylon is going down. So that's a little bit of an older Daniel. And so I would call it the writing on the wall because also if you go through all the prophecies, the writings on the wall and the prophecies, right? Like where that kind of comes from. So I thought that'd be a good enough title. But yeah, Guillermo del Toro starring
That's a
Daniel
good pick
Day-Lewis
for a director.
with Andrew Garfield.
See, this is good podcasting, Steve, that you chose another topic or a story that someone else did, but had a completely different take. Both takes on it I thought were very good. And you also were the first one to pick someone where two of the people like, eh.
I feel like you guys didn't like most of my cast for the second one too, which I will admit I had a lot of trouble with. At one point I had Josh Brolin in there and I was like, I like Josh Brolin, but I don't know because when I realized that Zerubbabel was younger, I was like, all right, well, I need a younger person. And I wanted Michael Shannon in here.
I liked a lot of choices. I don't.
Right.
I also have never thought about any of these. I don't think any of us probably have. So it's a fun exercise.
It was hard, especially going back to like the idea of like, well, how does these fit? Like, how does it fit into the story? Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Steve.
Those are my two.
So my two were completely different than what I was going to do as of Friday. So the first one I'll talk about because no one's taken this route. The first one is a comedy.
Oh.
And it's the story of Esther. So the message we just listened to, and I've never thought about this before, but it's a story of irony, things that you don't expect to happen happening.
Also, so a classic comedy, like a Greek comedy.
Yeah.
But also, other than for Haman, things don't really end poorly. It's not like this. It's not something where I think a comedy would be disrespectful to the subject matter. And I would have the story of Esther done by the Coen brothers.
Ooh,
which
interesting.
Are like very interesting.
Okay.
And because again, the idea that irony is the main thrust of it, what I think is perfect for a Coen brothers film. And it's also not like I don't like slapstick comedy. Like I don't like that kind of thing, and that's not what they do. So I won't start with my selection for Esther because I actually, especially after Steve got so much flack for James, I was going to say James Garfield.
Michael Shannon, there's a connection there, Dan.
Yeah, for Andrew Garfield. So I'll start with I think King Ahasuerus, one of the few actors that isn't typical Coen Brothers actor. They tend to use similar people, but Jason Bateman. I think Jason Bateman is one of the funniest people on the planet, and I want him to be king.
Okay.
What are you shaking your head at, Abby?
I would see like Arrested Development, like
I
the
was
whole
literally, I was
movie.
literally
Like,
gonna say,
you know?
is Will Arnett Heyman?
No. So, so Queen Vashti. So this is, I don't know if you guys are big Coen Brothers people, but I love Coen Brothers. And so Queen Vashti is Catherine Zeta-Jones,
Oh, okay.
who was in Intolerable Cruelty.
Okay,
George
yeah.
Clooney, and she was
Oh, wow.
excellent in it. I think she would be a good like antagonist early on in the film. She's done that role before, and I think it'd be funny. Heyman is George Clooney. I think he would be funny in that role. It just, and again, think Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
Is he a Dapper Dan man?
I think he'd be, could you imagine him getting stressed out when all of a sudden things are turning against him? Like I could see the look, I could see the whole thing. Mordecai is Tim Blake Nelson. So Delmar from Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
Okay.
I will be 82.
Right. I can see the sort of, imagine when all of a sudden he's being given these royal robes and being paraded through. Like I think all this stuff is perfect for a Coen Brothers film. I also have the eunuch.
Is that John Turturro?
Yes, it is. You can't tell me that John Turturro isn't the perfect person to play the eunuch in the story of Esther.
You're just doing Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Instead of being it based off the Odyssey, it's the story of Esther. Is it in the South in the 30s?
And Jason Bateman's yeah. And,
yeah.
And okay, so the Esther was hard because I wanted her to be a bit younger and probably younger than the king. So for Esther, I went because I think she's funny. I went with Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's funny. I think she would riff off of other people well, and I think she'd be a good female lead in a Coen Brothers film. So
interesting.
I was so excited about picking the Coen Brothers because they're like one of my favorite director pairs. Originally, I was going to pick The Story of Samson and Delilah, done by the Coen Brothers, which I think would also be funny.
Yeah, I would love that one.
I didn't think of the score, but now I like want Randy Newman to score this one because I love Randy Newman. It's going to be hilarious.
Just imagine him
like a honky tonk piano intro to the story of Esther. But I think that'd be a hilarious movie. The other choice was, this is the one that was inspired by Abby. So her and I were texting, and she suggested, "Oh, what about Joel Wright directing Esther?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's a great idea. Can I steal that?" Like, "Are you going to use it?" She go ahead. But I actually then realized Esther was perfect for the Coen Brothers, and so I think Joel Wright should do Ruth. I think it's, and those who know me wouldn't be shocked at, I think that's a great love story because it's not your typical, like, necessarily heavy emotion, Hollywoodized, fantasy land romance. And that's similarly the way I see things like Pride and Prejudice, which is the film Joel Wright that I know that Joel Wright did. I think he would do a great job telling the story. And this is where I took license in terms of who would be in it and when. So Boaz, Roy Scheider.
Oh, my man.
Roy Scheider, one of my favorite actors of all time. He's not your classic leading man. Like, he's not ugly, but he's not your classic leading man, which I think is also perfect for this kind of thing. Yeah. Naomi would be, so of course Roy Scheider's dead. So like him when he was in his maybe even Jaws era, which is younger but not young, because I would imagine Boaz was probably, he sounded fairly established. An older Laura Linney for Naomi.
Oh, that'd be good.
I love Laura Linney.
Birthday buddy, by the way.
Yeah. And it's not going to be a huge part. So the only other one I cast was Ruth. And I'm up for suggestions for this one. But I picked this person because I think, especially when she was younger, which is when she'd be starring in this, She was excellent and crushed everything she did. I'm a
I
little
know
less,
exactly who you're gonna
yeah,
pick.
a little less of a fan of her movies later in life, but I think she would also fit playing the female lead opposite Roy Scheider in a non-typical romance story where the two people involved are not like these runway model stars, and that's a young Meryl Streep.
That's not who I was gonna think. Okay,
Okay.
interesting.
Who did you think I was gonna pick?
I thought you were gonna say Keira Knightley.
No. No, I've
Okay.
softened on how much I like Keira Knightley as an actress.
Yeah, I don't think she's even really done
Not to
anything
call
much.
her out publicly or anything. I think she's fine. But
Well, just
I
you
think
picked
she's
somebody
fine.
who did Pride and Prejudice, so I was like, you do the
Right.
Keira Knightley route.
No, I wanted people who are not known for being these like, you know, symbols of attractiveness, but and are doing a take on a unconventional story of it's a little bit elements of what's the Jane Eyre, not at its core, but like the idea of there are moral things being struggled with beyond simply the romance. There's duty and a choice to follow her mother, and like things that are not just rooted in the romance of the story itself. So I thought it'd be a very interesting story to depict on film. And I think both stories that I picked are also like concise enough to be very good, just like hour and a half, 2 hour movies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think you really could make them into series, but they're also not so tiny that you'd have to embellish a lot. Like I think they're tailor-made for that. I don't have anything else like who would write the screenplay or something. Whoever did the one for Pride and Prejudice, one of the best soundtracks for a movie that I know of. So
that's a guy with a French last name, I think. He's got some really, I think he's French. He's got some really, really beautiful piano compositions. His score is lovely.
Okay, Dan, you bought it on vinyl when we were here.
I just bought it. I didn't look to see who it was, but those are my two. So we have a few minutes left. I feel the need to mention that so my other choice originally for the second one, before Abby gave me the idea, was I just want to see Denzel Washington play Samuel. I just want to see him play Samuel. Like he's got the aura for it. What was that?
Interesting.
Eye of disdain, Abby.
That's okay. My hot take on Denzel Washington.
I want to hear it.
Rashida, I feel like you're gonna be so insulted. Maybe I'll insult everybody. Okay. I don't think he's that great of an actor. I think he needs to play a very specific role.
That's true.
And I think if he's not playing that role, he sticks out real bad. Like
right, but that's this role. I want him to play Samuel in that way. It's like Samuel if he was from Brooklyn.
Yeah. It's like when Edward G. Robinson played Dathan. He's just a gangster, but he's in ancient Israel.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever Edward G. Robinson appeared on the scene, I just expected to go, yeah, see? Yeah. So did anyone else have other things they were debating between, like other stories or things that they wanted to mention because they really liked it, but it got cut on the cutting room floor or left on the cutting room floor?
I have too many to mention, so I'm just gonna pass on that one.
I feel like you ever feel like Jonah is one of those ones that like people can't do because it's such a weird story.
Yeah.
Like that's such an odd thing for him to go through.
I mean, I think the VeggieTales did it fine. Right?
Okay. I don't know about you guys, but they did something with that. It's like my family's favorite VeggieTales movie because the music in it is so good. They hired some great gospel choir and just had them do a bunch of beautiful songs for that movie. It's fantastic.
They should do what like the 24 in the Pit do, which is just every second of the movie is just the time he spent in the whale. It's just like an hour and a half, hour in the fish, an hour and a half in the fish.
That just sounds like Death of a Salesman or something.
Yeah, be like yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of stories, I think I came upon these two pretty quick because I wanted to make something that was like definitely not done. And I was like, the Second Temple, I think, was a cool political like major thing because of the time and everything that was going on. And I thought it was interesting because like Esther and all those, it's like, yeah, it's kind of similar, but you can even make reference to those things because they were almost concurrent, right? Like going on in similar times. And so I thought it'd be kind of interesting to make reference to things that have happened recently. in there. But yeah, I don't really think I had anything else because, as I mentioned, like I think Acts and Judges would be super interesting TV series. Um, Otherwise, yeah, I kind of felt like everything else he had either been done or, and like we talked about like the Chosen and the Ten Commandments, or like things that have been done pretty well that really to be like perfect just need to be tweaked. So I was kind of like, I don't necessarily know if I really want to like take the time to do that. So I think these are kind of what I had. I just had a really hard time with the cast.
I think, and also for the record, mine were both of mine could have been categorized either way. I think both of them actually have been made into films, but neither one was very famous. They're like B movie Christian films from like the 90s kind of thing. So both work for either category for me. So you pick which category each of them was in. Abby, did you have any like hot takes or something that got left out?
No, I was thinking there's this really like low budget version of Ruth that I've seen that is really funny because it's really poorly written. But that's why it should be remade, because it's one of those stories that I don't think has been told well before. And then there's a couple of Esthers. There's one Esther that's actually okay. And I can't remember. I think it's just called Esther, and it probably was made in maybe the early 2000s or like late 90s. That's actually not a bad one. And then there's an Esther called One Night with the King that is they take a lot of license with that one. But the thing I like about that movie, though, actually maybe the only thing I like about it, is that visually it's very cool and the costumes are insane, and it's really like everything's really big and extravagant, and it kind of maybe is, I don't know, a little bit more a representative of the kind of wealth that was in the land at the time. But other than that, it's kind of an odd film. So
Peter O'Toole and Omar Sharif
Yes.
and John Rhys Davies.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Very cool. Okay.
Interesting.
Well, I think that's it, folks. I don't have anything else on my end. I gave my plug to Denzel Washington to be Samuel. That's all I need to get out in my system. But yeah, thanks for watching another episode of Clean Meats. We'll have more fun discussions like this coming up, so tune in for that. But until next time, see everybody. Thanks for coming on.